Peace, family. My name is R. This is readyforr.com.
By the International Indigenous Society, and we come to talk about civics, things going on in the community, nationality, health, and a number of other subjects. Our discussion tonight is on health, but our goal is to get a better level of education out to our people so that they can make better decisions about organizing themselves, their families, and doing things in the community that that are like what was just shown, executing things so that we can change our condition. Tonight, as we talk about the subject tonight, the key focus that we want to get inside of your mind is that whenever you're introduced into new knowledge, you should take it as new knowledge, which means you're going to have to leave here, you don't have to, but you should, leave here with the desire to look into the information. Because we do often provide some very challenging information, challenging in the sense that most of what we have learned outside of a paradigm that was ours historically as a people. And I'm saying that to say, if we're going to talk about health, you have thousands of years of medical texts, corpuses and pharmacopoeia, and how to make herbs and how to cut somebody open and looking at the body long before the development of what we're calling the American Medical Association and all these other things that have been in existence, for a little while. With that in mind, as we look at the health state of the said African American, we know that there are severe problems. And we also know that usually, almost all the time, that one of our relatives or us interface with what we can call a Western medical institute is usually not a good interface. If you go in with ovarian fibroids, usually you lose an ovary. I haven't heard situations where somebody went in with ovarian fibroids and they come out and say, I no longer have cancer. It's gone. The doctor cured me. They just usually on medication for a little while and it stays dormant or continues to proliferate. More medicine, switch medicines, biopsy. Okay, now we got to take it. Heart disease. Black women leave the world in hysterectomies, which is the removal of your uterus. Diabetes. High blood pressure, low blood pressure, hypertension. All of these maladies. And in a large part of our community, they're just stuck with these things and they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. The announcement that you're sick is a scary message for the average person. It's very scary. You have cancer. You're like, I do? What does that mean? That means you have to take all these medicines, you're going to die. Well, I'm going to take the medicines. And you still end up dying. Or dying very slowly and painfully. Now, most of us do not contribute our own behavior to the cause of the disease. We contributed to mommy and daddy gave it. Or it came from nowhere. Diseases just pop up in bodies. But the reality is, there's two gears to this conversation tonight. The first is, you have a said problem and you want to get a solution. And you have to look at how do you solve the problem, mathematically. And the second thing is, to be healthy in the common world is to not have a problem or announcement from a doctor. Yet, there are other gears to health. that we should be exploring as an indigenous people, because a great part of other problems in our lifestyle is that our temples are dirty as hell. They're proliferating with toxins. And that has both a psychological, sociological, economic, you go around, whatever state your body in, it affects every dimension of your life. So what if you and I could learn a way not only to keep the body healthy, but to keep the environment healthy? Since we know that a great part of disease is not just said genetics or bad nutrition, a great part of it is your thinking and the levels of stress or none thereof that you have. And it's not spooky, which means when you start stressing about something and you feel bad about something, then there's a whole proliferation of biochemistry that takes place in the brain as a survival mechanism, because the body is responding to you as if you are in danger. And most of us are, because some of us are going to go to McDonald's after we leave it. Okay, so the most important part of the discussion is what? We're here to talk about specific anatomy and physiology. The specific anatomy and physiology of said black people, African people, whatever you want to call us, that specific anatomy and physiology. Why are we here to do that? Because usually when you go to a doctor or even a herbalist, they are not considering the variations in anatomy in their analysis of what the problem is and what they should do. Because that is either for very advanced technical people, or you have to have had some experience with older systems of medicine that concentrated on that. So, $1 million question. What the hell are these people selling these volumes for $500 a piece to study things that you have that they don't have inside of their biology? Let me say that again. There are thousands of doctors who come together every 4 years to study what is called the melanotropic peptide, which they don't have. I'm going to say it again. Everybody has melanin. No, they do not have it. But they study it intensely, so much so that they publish journals and they sell it for $500. So that means that most of the people with the melanotropic peptide do not read these books. Yet they are being studied intensely. What's the purpose of the study? Well, it's obviously to gather knowledge about the melanotropic peptide. But you have to understand that as an industry, there's always a reason why. Not just the knowledge, there has to be an industrial component to the study. Which means that if we invest and we're paying these doctors to do these research knowledge, what are we going to get out of it, the foundations who are paying? What are we going to learn? How are we going to use this information? And the answer is, we're going to get rich. Filthy rich. Bonkers rich. Off of the people who have this stuff that they don't know they have. And they don't know what it does. And it's pretty much neutralized in their body. So one of the other things we're going to talk about is there a way to neutralize your own power? So much so that even though you have it, you don't have it. Because you can hear somebody say, oh, we're melanated people. That doesn't mean anything if it's not on. You have to turn the car on to drive it. And there's a way to turn it off and on, biochemically. And these books talk about that. How do we shut down melanin? How do we shut down melanin operation? What do we do? What do we attach to it synthetically? What is it? All right. So, these 3 volumes are very technical books, but they're good to get. All right. So, all across the planet, people who look like this, you're in trouble. Because you don't know why you look like this. Well, some of you do. But if you don't know why you look like this, why you have these specific features, you're going to create a problem for yourself in a world where people who don't have those are studying you intensely for the purpose of industrializing whatever is in your body. Your body is for commercial and commodification of people who can use it for the purposes that they will use it for. An example being, if I'm old, I'm an old senior citizen, I want to go to Florida and retire, I'm 70 years old, and my heart's not working too good, so I want a heart. And I don't want to get a heart transplant. I want a new heart. A completely new. That means that somebody has to be able to grow that organ in a petri dish. Actually generate one. Or take one that someone has and regenerate the tissues and put it into that person. And that is happening, been happening. So how is that done? It's done by figuring out how to get those cells to regenerate themselves. And in order to do that, you need blood, tissues, and melanin from somewhere that is in the qualitative state to do so, that you can clone in order to produce this product. And the number one place to get this product of blood and melanin is from black women in hospitals when they have babies. As soon as you have that baby, you have something called a placenta. You have something called an umbilical cord. You have cord blood. And all of that, you allow the hospital to become a trustee for through contract, and they take it and they sell it to parties that are interested in having it. And they're very interested in having that because they are Fortune 500 companies. And they're very rich. So we can name some of these companies. Life Bank USA buys more blood from hospitals than any other company in North America. They're international company. Celgene is one of the Fortune 500 companies that buys the blood from a Life Bank and gives it over to the chemists so they can do the work to do the organ regeneration. So how is this multi-billion-dollar company taking your blood and you're on food stamps? That's a problem. It's a problem all across the country. So everybody who's watching on live stream or whatever, we need to figure out who is really wealthy. Who's wealthy? In this room, who's wealthy?
Financially.
Then we have another problem then. That means we have unrecognized wealth.
Yeah.
It's sitting in the ground and there's all kind of gold in it, but we don't want to tap it. We don't want to do nothing. We just want to leave it. We don't need it. As a matter of fact, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to give it away for free. Have you ever been in a hospital and seen how hospitals work about your property that came out of your body? I've been in it. And they are willing to call law enforcement on you about your property that came out of your body if you don't know what to say and how to respond. So all of us need some 101 legal training and understanding that anything that comes from your body, you own it until you give it away through a signature. And anytime you go in the hospital, you need to ask that question. Whatever, you don't need to be going to the hospital, but if you're going in for something, you need to ask that question. You taking some cc's of my blood, is this going to be sold to anybody? All these contracts that I'm signing, is there something there that says my body parts are going to be sold to anybody? Donated to anybody? Because with the level of technology on this planet, you could have somebody walking around who is you, somewhere else. They're not you, but they're a copy. I don't have that presentation today, but we can do that presentation if y'all want to see if cloning human beings is actually possible. They're having a debate. We do like cloning. That's the wrong conversation. You need to read the real journals that cost $300 and see what's happening on this book. All right? Cloning has been going on since the 1940s. At least it's most of them. So, you need to know why you look like this. You look like this because you are the only people who are supposed to be on this earth forever. That's why you look like that. You have a contract with the earth to be on it forever. You are a natural progression of creation, which means stars are born, then from the stars, planets are born, and on the planets, life is born, and on those planets, check this out, I need to write this down for you, so you don't get this wrong. Now, I'm not doing a subject on cosmology, but we could do that. All right, just pay attention to this chronology. Natural progression. We're going to take you out of Charles Darwin's Origin of Species into reality. All right? And this process works in reverse too. For the first time in 2012, they got to see this process work in reverse, which means they got to see a gas cloud get sucked up by nothing. A said black hole. And they said, wow, we don't know nothing about physics. And if you want to check that information out, you can go online and YouTube the ESON telescope. ESON. ESON telescope and the Sagittarius A black hole. And what you're going to find out is they don't know anything about physics because that's not supposed to happen. How can a gas cloud get sucked up by invisible space? But that's the digressing part. This is the birth part. So you got this stuff that's called dark energy and dark matter, which the only thing we know is it's just dark. And this is what Einstein was studying in black body radiation theory. And he came up with the thought that, wow, space is not just space, it's actually something. It's not only something, it's actually something that's having an effect on everything. And that's why he studied something called a unified field theory. Unified field theory is how are all these things held together in the universe and going around in circles. What intelligence is guiding it? Check out the theory though. The only thing we know about black body radiation theory and dark matter is that it's black. That's it. And it has power over all things. So physics has a God that is still studying. You get the birth of a gas cloud. Now, how do you get a gas cloud from nothing? Or something? And what are these gases? These are the elements, oxygen and all this other stuff. But how are they birthed from nothing? That's the question to be asked. That's more into what we call the singularity theory. But then we have what's called a star. Now, scientists have never seen a star born. They've never seen one born. But if they're here, we know they come from somewhere. Then from these little orbs, you get planets. This is a natural cosmological progression in this universe, in what we call solar systems, which means there's a star, then there's planets, and the planets have life forms on them. Like we didn't know there were life forms on Mars, right? Until the chief astronomer of the U.S. Naval Observatory turned into a whistleblower, Tom Van Flandern, and after they sent up the Mars surveyor in 2001, he came out and did a press conference in D.C. and showed all the pictures from the JPL and they got completely, they just propagandized. He's crazy. But he had him as the chief of the U.S. Naval Observatory, which is connected right to the Department of Defense to collect satellite intelligence on your fake Al-Qaeda. Now he's crazy. Because he did a press conference and he showed, you've seen that little face on Mars, right? There's like 50 of them. Did you know there's water on Mars? Trees? Roads? Underground, what do we call these? Taking air to underground. Yeah, ducts. All this has been seen. And this is online. You can get this now. You can get this now. We've done presentations. But who made these faces on Mars? So what I'm trying to tell you is that this is the natural progression. When you get a planet, you get plant life, animal life, and black people. That's a natural progression in all solar systems. So don't be surprised if you see this discussion on UFO shift. Because we've been here and we're everywhere in the universe. We just happen to be in this local situation with a little problem on this little planet that we're on. Because actually we're the only ones that's supposed to be here. We're the only ones that's supposed to be here. Now there's other entities here that are mutations of us. And they're just causing a whole bunch of problems. So much so, they have us confused about our role, and they have us joining in on the problem. Which means the earth has just divorced us. We broke our marriage with the earth. And now we're fighting each other. So, this is your guarantee if it's turned on to be here forever. If you turn it off, your lineage, your part of the lineage can die. But not all of us will ever die. That's impossible. All right. So ancients had a fascination with black and green skin. A fascination not just on one continent, on the American, the Asian, and the African. With black or blue-black, which is green and black mixed together, or green. Why? Is it because Asar was a reptilian? No. The green represents copper. And the black represents carbon. Real simple. And what do you get when you get carbon and copper? Electricity. Electricity. And there's a reason why this, amongst many others, but this is a great conductor of electricity. So, anybody seen the movie Transcendence?
Oh, yeah.
Good movie, right? That's a good movie. That movie, as I told you before, was based off of a real documentary. The documentary is on Amazon. You can get it for $2 on Amazon Videos, and it's about it's called Transcendent Man. Tonight, go on Amazon, look it up, and it's about the head and director of Google Technologies. All right. What's his white boy's name? He's a Jew. I talk about him all the time. I forgot, but he has a book called Cellular. Look up the head of Google Technologies, and he's into artificial intelligence. And they're already working on a mechanism to create the intelligence in these particular things. And you know what they're using in artificial intelligence? Nanocarbons. Where are they getting the nanocarbons from? You. Just like on a stealth bomber, when it wants to block out where it is, what's on it? Nanocarbons. Nanocarbonite crystals. And the greatest source of nanocarbonite crystals either comes from the earth, a plant, or a black person. There's nowhere else to get it from.
There was something key about the main character in Transcendence name. Somebody else touched on that. I think it was Phil Valentine, actually. But it was something key about his first and last name. I forgot what his name was.
Yeah, I forgot what his name is, too. When I was in the movie theater, I had to bring a notepad. That's how deep the movie was. I got to go back and watch that again. But yeah, go watch that. It's about a real documentary. And the point of it is that they're studying you. That's the point. They're studying you like crazy. And this ancient fascination just shows how intelligent people were a long time ago. All right? And how far we've fallen. So much so that we don't even know how to keep our melanin on. And you can tell when somebody's melanin is on. Or when it's going on and off. When it's on, you can jump from the free throw line or longer and look like you're flying. You start doing stuff that gets into what we call miracles or incredible. You start running faster than anybody. Usain Bolt, you're a bolt of light. All right? So we have proof that our melanin is on more than anybody by what we do, creatively, etc. So there was a fascination with melanin. And there should be a fascination with what's on your left. That's me holding a black watermelon seed. Anybody eat watermelon? Raise your hand if you eat watermelon. Raise your hand if you eat watermelon with no season. Okay, you're doing good here. But there's some watermelons that don't have black seeds. Some have white seeds. What is in the seed that's white or not, and what's in the seed that's black or not? Watermelon seeds are not supposed to be white. As soon as they're white, you know the watermelon is sick. Because the seed has lost its carbon. Which means there's nitrogen and sulfur in the seed. Which means that it's anti everything in your cell. That's the science. We can go through it. Oh, your question. We're going to come to questions. So that's just a simple one. So you got seedless, which means there's a terminator gene that terminated the seed. Then you got white seeds, which are hybrids, and then you have the original black seed. So all seeds are supposed to be brown or black. So go back and look at everything that you're eating. In North America, you rarely see a cucumber with brown seeds. They all have white seeds. Why? Because they're all clones. I'm not telling you stop eating cucumbers. I'm telling you we have a crisis. We have to solve it. And in order to solve it, we only need a plan. And we already have the plan. We just have to wake the people up that the plan is actually for so they can get it. So, I had to take a verse from your Bible. Bible. For all of you people who love Jesus, y'all watching online right now. And you ate so much swine today, so many ribs. You said, well, the rib got carbon in it, brother, it's charcoal. Anything. What did the man who never existed say? He said, the demons begged him, saying, if you cast us out, send us away into the herd of pigs. That's Jesus talking. So the demons are asking to go somewhere because they're about to get cast out. You know what happens when a demon gets cast out? It needs somewhere else to inhabit. So these demons are telling you the best place for them to inhabit is this pig. And your reverend is up teaching you about God, and he just ate that pig 3 hours before he joined the sermon. Before he took his high blood pressure medication. Coming to teach you about God. Damn, it's deep. Is it a possibility that something is disturbed in the neurons of his brain that will get him, not necessarily on the truth? You need a healthy brain and a healthy mind and a healthy body to be an effective operator of the truth. So everything up here your preacher is dealing with. Your blood album levels, which means your blood protein levels, means too much protein in your blood. Oh, I need protein. A healthy black body has 0 protein. Protein is a fungus. I need to get my protein. Go tell a gorilla to get some protein. Go take your protein creatine drink and get in the ring with the gorilla who eats seeded bananas. I don't think nobody want to get in the ring in a UFC fight with Mr. Gorilla. Not even the lion. Nobody ain't messing with the gorilla in the jungle. He's the king of the jungle. Anybody messing with him? He's a vegetarian. He's diesel. He eats no steak, no liver, no protein shake, no probiotics. None of that. No Angus burgers. He ain't none of that. And he's the strongest animal, and he has none of these things in his blood. I ain't never seen a gorilla with sickle cell, high blood pressure. You gotta take it. These are all things that are a result of eating garbage. And people eat garbage because they either don't have the knowledge, or they don't have the resources, they don't have the access. So we have to try to get the access. Maybe it's right next to them. But there are things that we put in our body that we don't need to put in our body. And we don't know. Because we think the standard American diet. We need our proteins and our milk and our bread and all those things. You don't need it. But there is a part of you that does eat that. But it's not naturally a part of you. There are entities in you that are eating other things that you're putting in that are dead. They're not naturally a part of your anatomy and physiology. They've grown into your anatomy and physiology. So we have been invaded. We're going to be specific about what you've been invaded. You ever get a crazy craving? In the middle of the night, 3 o'clock, I want some Myers ice cream. Right? Where's that coming from? That's not you. That's the colony of funguses that are in your body that are hungry. And they love to eat at night. That's when the vampires come out, at night. All right, so let's get this. Europeans are on campaigns to block out the sun. All over the planet. And they're spraying sulfur particles into the atmosphere to grow the clouds through weather modification to block out the sun, to make the planet more conducive for their life. All right? So this researcher found out that in the UK House of Commons, regulation of geoengineering describes reducing sunshine levels by spraying sulfate particles into the sky to create man-made clouds, thereby reflecting sunlight back out into space. The government proposes using airplanes to do this, but what I'm currently seeing over the South Wales matches their intention. So he just reported on that. Now, check this out. I wrote this book, and I pulled from an oral tradition that's over 700 years old, and what it says is that Ogo, or Yorugu, who in the Mali system is called the pale fox. This is Dogon, Africa, the Kita. And Ogo, or the pale fox, is the one who comes to cause universal disorder. But look what it says in their tradition about Ogo. The transformation of Ogo's placenta into copper and then a burning star, the sun, keeps him away from it. So Ogo was born in this placenta, but what he tried to do, he tried to rip himself away from the placenta that the Creator was creating everybody else in. He disassociated himself from growing, so he's premature. The transformation of the rest of Ogo's placenta into a burning star deprived him forever of the possibility of getting hold of it. The sun and its motion in space will be entrusted to the Nomodi, who resides in Amma, who's the creator, sky at his side. On the earth, the heat of the sun will burn Ogo, transformed into the fox, so as to keep him from acting to dry him out. So Ogo eventually, in the story, just gets burned up by the sun. Sound familiar? You might need some sunscreen. We'll change the name to Ogo. So, all right, yeah, let's go here. Health. What is health? When clients come to me and they say, well, I have a problem in my pancreas, diabetes. And I say, okay, let's take a look at you. And I put them on a machine called a quantum magnetic analyzer, and I do body diagnostics, looking at them. I can say, yeah, you do. Your glucose levels and, your fructose and galactose levels and insulin levels are off the chain. We can measure it. And then we start talking about how to fix the problem, right? But before we finish the first interview, I usually lose. Because in my diagnostic, I have to break down what's really happening. And I do it gently, but they usually don't want to hear it. And this is what they don't want to hear. If you have a physical malady, you have a mental malady. Everyone that has a physical disease has a mental disorder. That means something is going wrong in your brain, and by default, you're doing something to cause harm to your body, which means you don't know enough to protect it, which is dangerous. It's like throwing a child out in the middle of the street who never crossed the street. We have to stop it. So if there's damage to an organ or a system or tissues or cells, that damage is also in the smaller parts, the nucleotides, the genes, the amino acids, the said protein, or carboxylic acid. It's also in the molecules. Molecules are supposed to be arranged in a certain way. Today they call it fractality. But the shape of molecules and atoms is what allows for bonding and attenuation of energy, absorption, release of energy properly. If they're out of shape, say you're out of shape, then you're going to have energetic destabilization. So subatomically the disease exists, and the disease exists in your consciousness, in your thought patterns. All right? So we have to acknowledge that there's an energetic problem that's happening in our thoughts. So when that happens, you have over 100 trillion cells and over 240 quadrillion plus atoms in your body. And when one of them is out of order, it can cause destabilization in all of the others. Not necessarily destabilization where you're going to pass out and die. All right? But we're not doing things that we have the potential to do. All right? So we have a basis to measure health. And the model that we use, one is called a phototropic model. If you never saw this word, just look it up. And the other is called a heterotrope. The phototrope is natural. The heterotrope is unnatural. The phototrope is permanent, or permanent line of entity. The heterotrope is not. The heterotrope has to find a way to live off of a phototrope that's disconnected from its natural environment or operations, that's dying. So you have on the left a phototrope, and you have on the right a heterotrope. And if you're listening to the one on the right, may God be with you. You're going to have a problem. Because he's a tricky gangster. And he's the leader of the Crusades. Boy, actually the second leader. All right, so we have health, we have sickness. All right? We have a person with cells in their body, we have a person with spores. These are two different. We have a solar entity here, and we have an anti-solar entity on the right. He says he represents the sun. Right? So here we go. This is what your plate is supposed to look like. This is your nutrition. Really simple, nothing fancy. Your first food is your thoughts. You feed on them more than you feed on anything. You can hide from the sun, but you can't hide from your thoughts until you stop thinking. So if you're feeding yourself what I call ants, automatic negative thoughts all the time, you got a problem. We got to get you in better environments, better people, affirmations. You got to get some structure. Your next best food is sunlight. Get some sunlight every day, as much as possible. And when you can't get sunlight, do solar gazing. We teach how to do solar gazing exercise. Your next best food is clean air, because you're an aerobic and solar organism. These are food. I'm going to show you what happens when you are in anaerobic environment. Your next best food is water, fresh water, and then fruits, vegetables. That's the only thing you're supposed to be eating. If you were supposed to be eating something else, you wouldn't have the long intestines that you have that can stretch around this room a few times. Nor would you have the flat teeth that are for breaking up fruits and vegetables. You would have fangs, a short stomach or multiple stomachs. All right? There's some animals, if you throw a piece of meat around them, they'll look at you like, what you giving me that for? A horse is never going to eat a piece of meat until you domesticate him and force him to do something. He's in the wild, he'll never touch it. A gorilla is never going to touch it. A cow, you throw him some meat, he's hungry enough, he'll eat it. Because he's a hybrid. Mad cow disease. Alright, so this is your plate. Not only can we measure what you should be eating, we can measure who you are, your type, your psychology, your proclivity of thinking. Why is this important? This is important because we're supposed to be using these particular things to organize our families and societies. But we're letting bondholders organize our families and societies for the benefit of them drafting away energy from us, and they're shutting down our melanin. I'm going to show you how. And stressing you out. Because as soon as you start stressing, you release a particular hormone that shuts down melanin. It's called corticotropin releasing hormone. Right from the hypothalamus. It dumps itself into the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is where your melanin processes start biochemically, not in the pineal gland. All right? And white folks know this. There's something in your brain that's released called melanin stimulating hormone. They found out they don't have it. They found out that you do have it. They said, wow, this is the hormone that gets its way into every cell that causes the carbons to group together into a village. And when the carbons group together into a village, actually a village of pyramids. I'm going to show you. The carbons group together into a village of pyramids, and it makes you really brown-black and powerful. And if you eat hog maw and chicken cheesesteaks, your carbon and your villages and your pyramids start breaking apart and separating. And you start losing your energy. So, if you let Napoleon into your village, he's going to shoot off your nose and your sphinx and destroy you. So, as we look at this and how we are mapping out what's going on, what I'm telling you is that you have an adversarial group of people who want to make your planet conducive for themselves. So either you're going to leave this planet, which I don't think you're going to leave right now, or you're going to strive to put your brains together that are the most intelligent brains when they're on to deal with your inner sanctuary, yourself and your family. If you don't do that, if we don't do it, we'll continue to digress. All right, so under what's called X-ray diffraction, this is what a hexagonal carbon looks like. There are two types, pentos and hexos. The hexos is found in people with nappy hair and brown to black skin. The pentose is found in all other groups who don't have this hair. That's important. Just because, well, that's important. I'll say that. I'm coming to that point. So, why is this shape important? Because in physics, this shape gives you the highest level of what's called attenuation. It can absorb frequencies of photons greater than any other shape. Great. And in chemistry, carbon has the ability as a covalent element to bond with minerals greater than any other element. That means it can share itself with everything. That's what you do, don't you? You share everything. All right, so when we talk about melanin, we talk about carbon compounds. That's all we're talking about. Compounds of pyramids. Literally. You know what that is, right? On the left. That's the first cross, right? The arm. On the right is the circulatory network in your brain. So don't tell me our ancestors were some spooky symbol makers. They knew the anatomy of the body and they understood biological, anatomical, and physiological functions. Right? So we say this represents life, but then life must represent air. Now we're going to have to learn anatomy over. I know we think that the blood is the only thing that's inside of the veins and the vessels. But how does the blood move? Well, the heart pumps. What makes the heart pump?
Oxygen.
Say it again?
Oxygen?
Oxygen. Great. Where's the oxygen coming from? Breathing. So your breathing causes the heart to pump. No breathing, no pump. You stop breathing, it's going to slow down. Because the heart is just a gas valve. And what's in the vessels is gas and blood. And the gas is pushing it through. So it's a pressurized operation. So you say I got high blood pressure. You can solve high blood pressure through proper breathing. Follow me now? I'm trying to show you how easy this is. Because you're stressed out and you're not breathing properly. And you've been stressed since you were a baby because somebody smacked the hell out of you and stuck a needle in you. So you haven't been breathing right since day one. And you want to get that nigga back who smacked you. But you don't even know who he is. That's stress. Somebody smacked you and you see it. So this is Mary Atun. What does she have to her nose? Symbolic. Air. Oh. And it represents something way deeper than that. All right? The breath is starts something called a gonadotropin releasing hormone cycle. All right? And pretty much, when Europeans study this, they're amazed by it because they know that at the base of the neural crest in the nose, the cycle starts that deals with two things. It helps with the assistance of development of hormones and melanin, or just hormones in some cases. And it also starts the cycle, the gonadotropin, or it contributes to the cycle of luteinizing and follicle-stimulating hormone, which controls testosterone and progesterone. So dirty air can affect the cycles in men and women. You put the wrong stuff in the air, if the constitution of the body is not fit through nutrition and culture, you can make men want to be women, women want to be men. All right. So here we go. I just want to show you the cycle so you can get a little bit of science. Now, why is this important? Why am I showing you? I just want you to be able to look at this, but this is not the core of the message. The core of the message is, okay, these biological things are going on in your brain, in your body, and what is the body trying to do? operate its government. But it needs things in place. And melanin, or carbon compounds, become the number one element that is necessary to run the whole government. No carbon or weak carbon, no sharing, nothing. So we need to look at disease. Now I'm going to do this in two ways. I'm going to try to do this socially and try to do this based on science. Every cell in your body goes through something called mitochondrial respiration. It burns energy. That's it. Right? And if the environment is aerobic, it's cool. Once the environment gets anaerobic, we have a problem. It leads to the degeneration of mitochondrial operations, the spin. That's the fuel. And it's because we're putting stuff in that the cell does not need to burn. There's only one thing that a cell can burn for energy. And that is a piece of fruit. That's it. And it's the glucose in the fruit that is burning. If you get a fake fruit with galactose or some other type of fake, it's garbage to it. That's how you get diabetes. Type 2 it is. So that's the only thing it burns. When you put vegetables in the body, it's for structure. The body is replacing structure, is repairing. So it's just like a house. You come in and you have people who have to build the iron and the pipes. All right? The electrician don't come in first because he's going to put the wires all in it to allow the energy to flow to it. So you got structure and you got the flow of energy through the house. Water and electricity. Same thing in your body. All right? It's the same thing in a home. The structure is your system of law. The electricity and the water are your behavior and your emotions in accord with that law system. How are you operating your home? Is your sewer line backed up? Are your lights off? Because you ain't paid the bill? All right? So, spores are nitrogenous and sulfur-based heterotrophs that are what we call nitrogen fixated. And they induce ammonium conversion. Cell apoptosis, which is the death of the cell, is caused by mitochondrial permeability transition 4. What does that mean? You're getting holes all in your cells, the place where the engine is running. It's breaking down. It's breaking down. Now the mitochondria in the cell represents the female principle. Because where do you get your mitochondrial DNA from? Your mama. So what happens in the cell? The nuclear ribosomes provide the mitochondria with the right equipment, and then the mitochondria operates the energy of the cell. That's how the home is supposed to be operated. The woman controls the energy in the home. And the man brings the necessary constituent things that are necessary there to keep the energy operation running. Anybody ever been at home where a black woman is upset? You can do what you want to do until you address that issue. And going in the room and watching TV or football is not addressing the issue. Because as soon as you come out, you're going to run smack into that emotion. Bam! It's still here. And brother, there ain't nothing you can do about that except address the issue. So it's the same thing in the cell. You don't address the issue of the mitochondria needing to burn glucose, and you keep eating that garbage, you got a problem. That cell is going to implode or degenerate. And that's your home. The cell is your home. So now, if you can see, basic correspondence says you got to live right on all dimensions. You can't say, I'm living right on this dimension because I eat hog maw and... No,
I'm so sorry, family. I didn't get the whole video, but if you subscribe to my page, I'm going to be featuring the lectures more often. Also, if you're in New York City, he does these lectures every Monday at 7 p.m. at the National Black Theater. And on June 22nd at the National Black Theater, Brother Polite will be debating Dr. Ali Muhammad on the historical origins of Islam and the effects on indigenous people, negative or positive. In round two, they'll be discussing remedies for our people. The tickets can be purchased at 2012stores.com. Participate in revolution.